Good afternoon, Year 6. We're looking in our spelling today at words which have a long E sound, which is spelt with an I and an E, or an E and an I after a C in their spelling, and some of the exceptions. So this is continuing our work from last week today. To be successful in today's session, we're going to need to check our previous spellings and confirm that we've practiced them. I know, Layla, you've worked really hard on yours, so thank you very much for that. And I know, Ines, you've been sending in the sheets that you completed from last week as well, so thanks for that. I'd like us to learn some new spellings. You're going to practice these new spellings and then use these new spellings within some sentences, okay? First bit of our session is a bit of recall. So basically, what you've got to do is each spelling has been spelled correctly in one column, incorrectly in another column. You've got these on your sheet. So have a look at them. Circle the ones that are correct. Pause your video while you do that. Give yourself a minute or two to ensure that you've got that correct. Okie dokie, guys. Then having a look through, we can see that siege is incorrectly spelled in the left because it's got two E's rather than the I and the E. We can see that niece is incorrectly spelled on the right because it's got two E's again. That E sound, that long sound, it tends to be the I and the E in these spellings. We've got grief, which is that feeling that Tomo is starting to feel as he's feeling sad about the end of the kind of like triumvirate of him, Charlie, and Molly within our private peaceful store. Chief. Okay, so chief is always with an I and an E, so somebody's in charge of something. A difficult character, an unpleasant character, somebody maybe even like the colonel. Fiend's a really strong noun to describe somebody as, unless we're very, very clear that they're very unpleasant. We've got shrieking, so I know some of us like a good shriek when we're scared or we see a spider. We've got believe, okay, and that's a key spell, and we've got to make sure we're getting right. Similarly to friend, believe is one that Mr. Spring's hair gradually, you can see the bits over here, getting whiter and whiter, and it's getting further and further back whenever we misspell believe. So please help me out, guys. Achieve, okay, again, he's got the I before the E, so making sure that's correct. Convenience. Now, some of these misspellings are slightly different, where the V is followed by an E inconvenience, whereas the incorrect spelling has the V followed by an I. And finally, we've got mischievous, and just making sure there that the suffix OUS is added to the end of the root element rather than just the U and the S. Okay, so those are the correct ones. Hopefully, you got all 10 of those correct. Well done if you did. We're now looking again at this rule. I before E except after C. So this was touched upon in our video from last week. And if we're looking at it today, it usually applies to words with a C before a long E sound. So if we think about that, conceive, okay, so I before E except after C. So we've got some word, conceive is compared to those spellings that we looked at earlier, where they've got the I before the E, here we've got words which follow on from a C with the E and the I, where the E is before the I. Okay. But let's see if we can think about any words which we can think of which make the E sound, the long E sound, with the E before the I. See if you can jot any down. Okay, have a think about that whilst you see the timer going on the bottom of the screen, please. Okie dokie, let's see how we've done. Did you find deceive? Okay, when we're playing a trick on somebody, we might deceive them. Did you find conceive? So we see conceive in the example one to a slide ago. So conceive is when you think, when you generate something. Okay, so when something's new, we conceive it. Okay, so conceiving an idea is when we've come up with a kind of new idea. Receive is when we get something, we receive it, Okay, so all those lovely presents that you're all going to bring in when we come back from Mr. Spring. Can't wait for them. Maybe. Okay, perceive is our view of something. Our perception is our view of it. So when we perceive it, it's a synonym for think. So perceiving. Ceiling. Okay, the ceiling. Okay, up there, inside a building, the internal element of a roof is the ceiling. Okay, always a tricky spelling. Lots of us try and spell it with a S rather than a C as well. So it's got a couple of elements that are tricky there. Receipt. So when you receive something, you're sometimes given a receipt because you've received it. Okay, so when you pay for something, you might be given a receipt to show that you've given it. And just give some money. Okay. Protein. Now, some of these we might notice there's a different element. Protein, the element within our diet that we receive from things like meat and chicken and eggs. Caffeine is one Spring drinks so much coffee because it makes him awake when his children are up all night shouting at him. Seize is when we grab something, we seize it from somebody if we don't think they should have it or we really want it. Neither. Okay, so neither this nor that. Okay, so neither of these. Neither or neither. Different people say that in a different way. It's one of those regional variations, neither or neither. Okay, so we've got these words that are in blue. Have you noticed anything about those? What's different about those compared to the other ones? Hopefully lots of you have spotted that there are a few where they do have an E before an I, which is not preceded. So the C doesn't come before them. So if you look at protein, the letter preceding the E and the I is a T. If you look at caffeine, the letter before the E and the I is an F, a double F. C's, it's an S, and neither, it's an N. Okay, so those are words that are irregular words in their spelling pattern. And today we've got then these 10 words to spell. Okay, so deceive, conceive, receive, perceive, ceiling, receipt, and then protein, caffeine, seize, and neither. Right, guys, so this slide set's great because it's got Mr. Whoopkin. Okay, it looks like a silly old sausage, this guy. I have no idea why he's walking around with nothing apart from gloves and socks on. I get that he's fallen over. I get he's clumsy, but I don't know why he's not wearing any clothes. So sorry about that. Now, he needs a receipt. Which one do we think is correct? First one or the second one? Then there's a new top because it has a hole in it. Okay, his birthday balloons are full of helium, so they all floated up to the ceiling. How do we spell ceiling? Third one, a balanced diet. So we've mentioned about why we've got protein. It's got carbohydrates, protein, fiber, and dairy producing. So which ones are the correct spellings? Receipt is the E before the I. Ceiling is the E before the I after the T. And protein, again, it's the E before the I. Okay, so those are the three correct ones. So your spellings today, guys, then are deceive, conceive, receive, perceive, ceiling, receipt, protein, caffeine, seize, and neither. And those 10 spellings you're going to practice. As we've done before, practice them on your spelling sheet. Check them after covering them and check if you've got them correct. I know you did a great job with that, Layla. And once you've done that, like lots of you have done, try and use them this week in sentences. So here we've got an example. Clearly his boss perceives that he's not up to the job. So I've used perceive and then I've added that S suffix to show that somebody's doing that verb. So somebody doesn't believe they're good enough to do that role. Incredibly, my brother couldn't receive his birthday present from the delivery driver as he was asleep. So silly sausage didn't get his present. Really impress me if you can. Use a relative clause in those sentences. Really impress me even more. Use some of the other vocabulary from one of our other subjects. Thanks very much for listening to your spelling session. I look forward to seeing all those pieces of work later. See you soon, guys.